the government is going to tell you what's the appropriate mortgage for you to have. It's going to tell you what the appropriate credit card you can have. It's going to tell you what kind of car loan you can have. It's going to tell you what kind of financial products maybe you should be having instead of sitting down with a broker or a financial advisor. And we're going down a road where the government wants to tell us everything. Well, I think back about these 56 men that signed this document called the Declaration of Independence, and they pledged their lives, their fortunes, and their sacred honor. And in Texas, when people play Texas Hold'em, they call that all in because that meant they were going to they signed their death warrants. And what were they saying? They were saying, we don't want the king telling us what to do anymore. And so I've been hearing from you loud and clear. You've been emailing me, you've been faxing me, you've been calling me. You don't want the king telling you what to do either. America needs an energy policy in this country, but what the kind of energy policy America needs is one that produces energy and not taxes. Administration calls this cap and trade. I call it cap and tax because it produces very little new energy but produces a lot of new taxes on American families. And that is unacceptable. If we want to make America more independent and make it continue to be the great nation that it is, we have to start producing American resources. We have to send a check to Hugo Chavez every day. I don't like sending a check to Hugo Chavez. I don't like We have wonderful resources in our own country. We have a 400-year supply of coal. We have clean coal technology. 19th congressional district leads the world in wind energy. We can build nuclear power plants. You know what? I've been on a nuclear submarine and I've been on a nuclear aircraft carrier. Our young men and women sleep from about here to the flag from a nuclear reactor, and I was on there at night and none of them were glowing. So we can produce all kinds of energy. We have oil resources, gas resources off of our coast that time and time again the folks on the other side that say that we need to do something about our energy policy don't vote for a comprehensive energy policy, but they were willing to vote for a comprehensive tax on American families. And quite honestly, that's unacceptable. So I think the overall umbrella here, and I think it's what I'm hearing from you, is this big government thing is scary and it makes you mad. Let me let you know right now, I'm mad too. How are future generations going to live out the American dream if we take away their opportunity? The OMB and the CBO are releasing some very disturbing numbers here, and basically what it is, that the deficit that was going to only be $1 trillion, then it crept up to $1.3 trillion. And now they're saying they're going to admit it's going to be $1.7 trillion. I'm going to tell you, I think it's going to be $2 trillion before it's all said and done. And now we find out instead of $7 trillion over the next 10 years, it's going to be $9 trillion. If this economy continues and we continue down this path, it's going to be $10 trillion or more. Even the CBO says we are on an unsustainable level of debt in this country and spending. We had Chairman Bernanke, and I asked him a question in a hearing that we had, and I said, Chairman Bernanke, is the spending, the levels and borrowing levels that the government's on sustainable? And he said, it is not sustainable. This is the Chairman of the Federal Reserve, as you know, the President just reappointed today. We've got to do something about that. Otherwise, we're going to leave a legacy of debt that I think will be insurmountable for future generations. Dan and I are very fortunate. We're very excited. Is that in just the next few days we're going to receive God's gift of a third grandchild, and we're so excited about it. Uncle Sam has a gift, baby gift, for my grandchild, and it's a $38,000 debt. And at the time that that child is, I'm hoping for a girl, so I'll just refer to her as she, that the time she gets to be wage earning, that's could be over double that amount. when our founding fathers said, you know, let's make this a nation where people can work and be free to express themselves and free to take a risk and reap the benefits of their work and their labor, they never envisioned that the federal government would be doing these kinds of things. And so what I'm committed to, but I need your help, is we've got to keep your voice strong. The American people have spoken. I'm hopeful that when the president comes back from his vacation, that he will say, you know what, we've been listening. We hear the American people. This is very important issues that we're considering in the United States government. It's not time for partisanship. It's not time for Republicans or Democrats or Libertarians or Blueberrians to be fighting. It's time to do things that's right for the American people, and let's get it right. So I'm going to, and here's the way we'll do this. We'll just kind of go back and forth to the mic, and as we said, if you can be succinct in your questions, we're going to try to do as many things. That form that you were handed out is very important to me. I hope you won't just take that home and trash. You don't have to fill it out before you leave if you want to take it home and kind of think about it. But I do want the president, I do want my colleagues on the other side of the aisle that have voted for this, I do want them to hear. I think they've been hearing from the folks in their district, but I wouldn't mind them hearing from the folks in my district as well. And so with that, let's go to the question.
My question. My question, can you hear that? My question involves the White House budget and their recent announcement that instead of $7 trillion, we're going to have a $9 trillion debt in 10 years. Now, if they can't do the math, that's over 25%. And if they're that wrong on the budget or the deficit, how wrong are they going to be on health care?
Well, and I think that's an extremely good question. I was talking to one of the folks here in the audience, and they said they were an accounting major from Texas Tech, and I was an accounting major from Texas Tech. And they use a lot different accounting. Since I've been in, I was in business, and I had, you know, my balance sheet had to balance, and you know, when I had more expenses than I had income, it was called a loss. And they use a different kind of accounting in Washington, D.C. And these numbers that they float around in these trillions, and you know, I just want to put in perspective. I do this. You know, if you were going to count to $1 trillion, okay? 1, 2, 3. You know how long it take you? 38,000 years. So you better get started if you're really interested in doing that. And so when we start throwing around, well, it's just $1 trillion here and $1 trillion there, and we talk about $9 trillion over 10 years, that's a lot of money. And then the interest on $9 trillion is and then the interest on $9 trillion is a lot of money. And so, you know, what we've got to do, you know what American families are doing? Our savings rate in this country has gone from 0 to 5%. That means, you know what American families are doing? They're cutting back. They're saving their money. They're paying off their debt because they realize they got caught up in the same thing that our government's caught up in, this spending and borrowing. Individuals, families, businesses, and government caught up on it. And the only person that didn't get the message is the federal government, spending and borrowing.